Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
I'm Coach Margaret.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And today we're going to be talking about, will my ex forget about me while I'm in no contact? So we could do this video just about every day for you guys.
And maybe we will. Yeah.
Because, you know, it's so hard to be in no contact from your ex. You haven't talked to him, sometimes in months. And every day you're still struggling with anxiety, depression, maybe
What did I do wrong?
beating yourself up.
Yeah.
And will they come back? Will they forget about me? Will I really have another chance? Sometimes you feel like, oh, I'm wasting my time doing this. You know what I mean? Oh, this is no contact. She's forgotten all about me. She's dating somebody new. But you don't forget about people that you're attached to.
You can't, even if you want to.
Yeah. And that while that doesn't mean it's going to be that they come back to you or want to revisit things with you, it's nice to know that people don't forget about you.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what makes you think you're forgettable? What are you thinking?
Margaret, do you think on some level that it's like annihilation fear?
I really do. And I think it goes back to the fact that when we're first born, we are completely dependent. You know, we can't feed ourselves, we can't do anything. And so anytime we're abandoned, it brings back that terror that we could be left here in this wherever I am when I'm an infant, and I could die here. Yes, I do think it's ultimately an annihilation fear.
Yeah.
And it's built in, there's nothing logical about it. But when you've got a loss like that, absolutely right.
Yeah. And for those of you that grew up in a home where maybe your mother wasn't very attuned to you, maybe she was sick, alcoholic, or worked all the time, or whatever it may be, that kind of trauma is so overwhelming that it's impacting your emotional connections as an adult.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So maybe we could talk about that, because I think it's helpful for people to understand that a lot of times this is about what happened in their childhood, and that's why certain breakups are so much more painful than others.
Yeah, you really have this fear of that connection being severed with your ex.
Absolutely.
And the idea of them forgetting about you makes you wonder if, you disappear from their world entirely and you have no other means of repairing things.
Because if your mother forgot about you, you would die.
Yeah. And Margaret, I think a lot of the people that really struggle with the breakups had a lot of loss.
Usually, yes, people may have lost a parent, a sibling, been moved to foster care or their cousin's house or any number of things like that.
Divorce.
Absolutely, divorce, anything that can go wrong. A dad who's rarely home and is always traveling. That's a constant grief, I'm beginning to realize. That every time he goes away, it's the same grief all over again. So yes, it comes from prior experiences. And it's hard to remember that. And, why isn't it just what's happening right now? Yeah, let's look at what's happening right now.
And many of you, too, probably had a better relationship with your ex than you did with your parents.
Absolutely.
And so the connection with them might have been more of a significant key relationship in your life.
Yeah. I know, I've talked about my personal history. My mom was a very anxious person. She was very caring and very kind, but she was very anxious. And my dad and my mom split up when I was about 1.5 years old. And I think my mom had tremendous amounts of anxiety because of that.
I think so too.
Now, I think there was a lot of drama and immaturity that went on kind of on both sides. But my dad was he did some things that he, later in life felt bad about.
Yeah.
And we were able to repair that. But he did some things that were traumatizing for my mom and ultimately for me.
For you, yeah.
And for me, that part of it was meaning that I had to go to my dad's house every other weekend and summers and whatnot. But my mom was such an anxious person that I think it made me extremely anxious to go. I think absorbed that anxiety. And, so I remember being at my dad's house and just crying all the time and being so sad and just homesick all the time.
And of course you didn't know if your mom was okay.
Yeah.
And there had been some craziness, right, between mom and dad.
And my stepmom, I think, had mental health problems. She was probably bipolar, or borderline, or both.
Or both. You can be both.
But I did not like going there because of that. And it was also because I was little and I was loyal to mom. You know, you feel a loyalty to a parent.
Absolutely.
And why I'm telling you this is because that's part of the reason that breakups were so hard for me. That it brought me back to a lot of those painful times when I was little and feeling, you know, abandoned or alone from, you know, my mom, who I had a strong bond with. And so many of you probably had similar things, and that's why it's so painful to go through the breakup.
Because every loss brings back every other loss.
Yeah.
And I think we've said it 100 times, but it's always worth saying. If you have a loss today, it's going to make you think of the prior losses in your life. Not voluntarily, not consciously, but it's going to come up. How come I'm thinking about Joe Smith today? Oh yeah, he moved away when I was little and I really missed him, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I became so passionate about breakups, because I had parents that were married 3 times each.
Yep.
My mom married 3 times, my dad married 3 times. And my dad had a great 3rd marriage until he passed. But seeing parents getting married, imagine all these step
No, I
parents
can't
in my
imagine.
life.
Yeah.
My gosh.
You know, it's a lot. You're like, who's, and it'd be, I'd forget names, but it was John, Don, John. So it was impossible for me to forget.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, you couldn't forget even if you wanted to.
Yeah, so, you know, that impact is why I'm so passionate about helping you guys go through this, because what I went through in those breakups and divorces is the pain that I went through again in my adult relationships.
Right.
And
And we don't automatically know that.
Yeah,
I mean, if
we don't know that.
live in the world like a normal person, we say, I had a breakup, how come I feel like I'm dying? Yeah, and like I'll never recover, and like I don't care even.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes our ex can be more loving, more supportive, more affectionate, more warm than our parents ever were.
Absolutely.
So we might have found a lot of healing through our relationship with our ex, that once that's gone, it impacts you that much more.
Because you don't think about the fact that you can in some way keep it.
Yeah.
so you often feel like that's it, they're moving on, they're just going to forget about me.
That's
But
right.
are they going to forget about you, Margaret?
No, they can't.
So what do you got? Margaret's got some research too to back this.
Yeah. So you're probably saying, what's all this stuff about our furry little ancestors in the trees have to do with my breakup?
We talked about that in the other similar video.
Yep. It speaks to the origins and some of the reasons for how we have become who we have become as human beings. So let's look at what's going on now. I reviewed a number of breakup questions submitted to the Quora site. Does everybody know the Quora
Sure.
site? Probably. Where people can write in with questions and receive feedback. The will my partner forget me question is incredibly common. All you have to do is read one page of that, and that's what everybody is saying. Will my partner forget about me? A distraught young woman wrote in saying that 3 months ago she had broken up with her boyfriend of 3 years. She broke up with him, got that? All right. 3 months later, he was dating someone else very regularly. Now that's a pretty long time. That's not, leaping to the next relationship. She was incredibly upset, saying, how could he do this to me? Okay?
Even though she broke up with him.
Even though she broke up with him.
Do you see how that works?
Yeah.
The dumper gets like that too.
Yep, absolutely. How could he do this to me? How could he forget that I have feelings? How could he forget how hurt I would be?
All of you watching are probably shaking your heads, right? Like,
And
what?
and have probably diagnosed her by now. Okay, for one thing, she had broken up with him. But even more striking is the extent of her upset and outrage. Even though she had broken up with him, she felt that he still owed her an enormous amount of thought and consideration. She almost seemed to forget that she did the breaking up.
Yep.
Somehow this doesn't sound like a well thought out adult decision, does it?
No.
No, it really doesn't. No. The magnitude of this emotional experience for her, and very likely for him as well, highlights the importance of these issues. In this case, the dumper had not forgotten anything and was still being demanding.
Yeah.
All right? So you can tell just from reading this that somehow she had a feeling that just having this relationship was supposed to fix absolutely everything. And of course it can't, and no relation can.
Yeah.
Right.
So she probably broke up with him, not for that reason, but because she didn't feel like she was getting what she needed. But certainly thought he still owed her.
But also, you can see in that he didn't, well, as far as we could tell, he moved on
Yeah.
naturally
Yeah.
in whatever way. I mean, I think probably too soon because
Yeah.
it's 3 months later.
Sure.
But when she felt the loss is when it hurt her.
Right.
And that's why we say don't reach out, because we want them to feel the loss.
That's exactly right.
And I think anybody who's broken up with anybody ever can relate to this feeling
Oh, yeah.
of when your ex, even if you did the breaking up,
True.
dates somebody else, and you see it, whether it's on social media, whether you hear it from a friend, it gives you this emotional gut reaction.
To what she got that I don't, or what's he got that I don't.
Yeah.
And you realize that you're broken up, but seeing your ex-partner with somebody else makes it real. And there's nothing that can prepare you for that.
No.
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 Yeah, because you'd be fine 1 minute and then devastated the next second.
Right, even if it was your decision. And it makes you question things, because being with your ex-partner for however long you've been with them, it's strange to see them in connection with somebody else.
Yes, and very disturbing. And your inner voice is saying, see, I told you there was something wrong with you. You'll never find anybody. Look at how you're behaving now. Okay. We are all aware that we come into the world with abandonment fears, also built into our humanity. The fear of being alone certainly isn't helped by decades of media portrayals of single women. A happy ending is rarely portrayed for single women who may choose to be alone. They are usually presented as having regret and remorse. Think of the archetype of the old curmudgeonly great aunt.
Okay.
Right? Now, does she have a happy ending? Does anybody handle her like it was okay for her to choose to be alone?
I think of like Marge Simpson's sisters.
Yeah, right.
I'm thinking in my generation, we glorify the old cat lady.
Yeah, the old cat lady. Yes, that is true. I hadn't thought about that. The cat lady, I'm glad she's around. So we have been shown over and over again that being alone is never a choice, but rather is unfortunate, depressing, shameful, or pitiable. And I remember when I was a kid, there was a very popular card game called Old Maid. Do any of you youngins remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what kind of a message is that? And I remember as a little kid, as the old maid on the deck of cards I had looked like the lady down the street. I said, so what's wrong with her? I thought she was all right. She gave me cookies. Yeah. And men, of course, also are, people can't understand why a man might choose to be alone, and he has just as much right as a woman, okay? Also, in many cultures, there are very clear expectations to marry and to marry well. What does it mean to marry well? It means that your husband has money. And I worked with one woman whose husband, according to her father, not only had to have money, he had to speak 2 or 3 different languages in addition to her first language.
Wow.
So she went along with that, but her sister didn't.
Does Klingon count?
Yeah, yeah. Women are also pressured by the biological clock and feel pressured to establish a relationship before they pass the age for safe childbearing. And I have to say commonly, don't marry somebody you don't like, don't love, don't want to be with, just to beat the biological clock.
Yep. Or to make your mom happy.
Right.
Well, yes, of course.
Right.
I'm going to get to that in a second.
And there's many fertility options nowadays too,
Yes.
if you're concerned about the biological
Absolutely,
clock.
absolutely.
I won't say that they're all easy, but explore your options.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's right. Okay. Also, we want grandchildren. When are you having them? How many people and how often do you hear that? It is commonly said by your family of origin. There are people who complain every time they go for a holiday to see their family. When are you getting married? When am I going to have nieces and nephews? When am I going to have grandchildren? Men don't have it easy either. They too are pressed for grandchildren, whether they want them or not. For cultural reasons, men are often forced to be lonely because they do not make friend groups the same way that women do. We tell them they have to be strong and that having any emotion at all, and God forbid showing that you have it, is a weakness. Or maybe he's gay, right?
Yeah.
So single men don't have it easy. either. Sports is one of the few areas where men are allowed to have emotions. If you watch male sports events, you see that they work together as a team and engage in horseplay to express their affection for each other. But that seems to be about the only time it's okay for men.
Yeah.
You know?
So all these pressures are going to impact your ex.
Absolutely.
And, you know, when you're not hearing from them, a lot of these issues are going to come up for them.
Absolutely.
They're going to feel the pressure.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, you broke up with so-and-so?
Yeah, we liked her.
Yeah. Or maybe they'll get, in some cultures, they'll get pressured to date somebody they don't even like.
Right.
Or no.
Yeah.
Or even no.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, there are many cultures where it's expected that the parents will choose your partner.
Mm-hmm.
All right? That's a whole other thing we should get into someday. Yeah. People who are alone or have chosen to be alone or who are alone for whatever reason are often kind of suspect and not respected. So if you're not in the traditional marriage, then there must be something wrong with you.
Yep.
Okay. Now, the managed care health insurance industry has figured out that lonely people get sick more and cost them more money. All right. So I would predict that there will be plans and programs developed to help with the loneliness issue.
Now your insurance is going to call you up. Can we talk to you about your relationship?
And how are you doing with your relationship?
Get back with them. Get back with your ex.
Or I want you to go to
and save 10% on your insurance.
Yes. Or I want you to go to the little building over here for the latest networking group that you have to go to.
The
now.
Singles networking group.
Yeah.
We're gonna.
Well, there are some of those. Who have little buildings.
Get your checkup and
yes.
check up and check them out.
That's right.
Singles group.
That's right. So anyway, I don't like managed care, can you tell? Therefore, I predict that there will be plans and programs developed to help with loneliness. All of this tells us how important it is for us to work on ourselves and to separate appropriately from our family of origin. The choices we make about who we are and what we want out of relationships, life and love, have to be our own decisions. Okay?
Now think about all of these topics we just covered. All these different issues that are coming up from all these different areas. How would your ex forget about you when all those things are coming into their mind?
Absolutely.
Right.
Attacking them at every different angle.
Yes.
It's a lot.
Yes.
How could you just forget about somebody when all of these things are literally in your face?
Right. It's not only the biological wiring that makes them remember you, but it's also their
all
environment.
those social things. Yes, sure.
And they're not going to be able to escape all this stuff.
No. Not unless they're not human. And if they weren't human, you wouldn't have loved them.
Some of you may have.
Yeah. Now, many things contribute to our struggles with relationships. For one thing, we have all this wonderful communication which had not even been thought about 30 or 40 years ago. Nobody had any idea. All right. Somebody came to me at one point and said, remember being in high school and everybody wanted to show you all the messages they got on their cell phone? No, see, we didn't have any cell phones when I was in high school.
We had a slate.
We had to pass notes or write on the bathroom walls. For a good time, call Lucy. Yeah. That used to be all over every bathroom wall. Now it's not there anymore with email and stuff.
And Craigslist.
And Craigslist. Oh yes, Craigslist. That's
not my
thing.
list.
Yeah.
The other Craig.
Okay, we have all this wonderful communication. We can easily become overwhelmed by the sheer volume of the information out there and the current thoughts about what makes us and others attractive or not attractive. I mean, just take a quick look at your cell phone. Here's so-and-so wearing this new outfit. Doesn't she look wonderful? And this guy has been lifting entire buildings, doing his exercises, and doesn't he look wonderful? So it's a constant barrage of standards of beauty and handsomeness and all of that our inner critic is going to tell us, you're never going to look like that. Right? Well, I'm never picking up the Empire State Building either. We are all aware that we come into the world with abandonment fears built into our humanity. The fear of being alone certainly isn't helped by any of what we're currently seeing. All right? So I can't emphasize enough how important it is to work on yourself. If you're out dating, you need to think about what you want, what you think you might want, what you might want to explore. What sort of people are you attracted to? Okay, and how come? All of those things need to be thought about before you fall in love with somebody, and then it becomes complicated.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And these are a lot of things that, someone is going to think about after a breakup.
Yeah.
Where you're thinking that they've forgotten about you, but a lot of these issues are things that they're going to have to think about and come to terms with in certain areas or ways that you're going to be a big part of that process. So think about all these different areas that we just shared that they feel that pressure, right? If you are improving in these areas and becoming more focused on being a better partner, or getting your mental health improved, with therapy, or learning how to have better emotional self-control. A lot of times we become really motivated to improve our careers, go back to school.
Right.
All of those things are going to impact your ex when they're reevaluating. These are all things that they have to reevaluate. So you want to really do your best to blow them away when they do revisit the idea of dating you again.
Yeah. And the more you understand about your current situation and yourself and how you feel, the more wonderfully you're going to come across, because you'll come across as together and open and all sorts of good things. All right.
And what I also loved that you highlighted, Margaret, was the fear of being alone.
Oh, yes.
That's really important. And I think many of you dealing with the breakup now are facing that.
Yeah.
And so working on those core issues will only make you look more
That's very good.
attractive.
Thank you for bringing that up again. I just sort of moved over it too quickly.
I know,
But many people have a huge fear of being alone. Well, if I don't get with this person, maybe I'll never find anybody. And that's what your inner voice is going to say. You're such a loser. You'll never find anybody. Shut up, inner voice. I'm going to work on myself. And you'll have to stay home. Yeah.
Good stuff.
All right.
But we really expanded that. And so you can look at a lot more areas that not only you have to consider, but your ex.
Yeah.
All right. So hopefully this has been helpful to you. Of course, if you want to get our help personally, you can do it on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Coach Margaret is available for Skype coaching.
If you think I can be helpful, please sign up.
And Victoria is available for Skype coaching.
Yes, and I look forward to speaking with you.
But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
I'm Coach Margaret.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.